Thank you very much for coming tonight. My name is Rebecca Townsend. I'm the town moderator. I welcome you to the Over 60 room in the Greenwood Senior Center and to this deliberative forum on Article 14 primarily. There's an agenda that's been printed out. Some of you have it. I also want to note that there's some light refreshments in the back. So if you're feeling hungry, please enjoy some. The forum tonight is designed for us to get to talk to one another, learn about the main issue before us on, it's not the main issue, forgive me. There are many issues, but the main issue that we'll be focusing on tonight is the Adult Center proposal, Article 14. And so the way, does this amplify? It doesn't amplify. I will speak louder, yes. So again, the main goal for tonight is to discuss the pros and cons of Article 14. However, as you'll see from the agenda, there will be some time toward the end where we can discuss the other warrant articles. So the way the structure of the evening will work is that we will hear a presentation first from Marybeth Bergeron and John Kaplan. John is the architect for the project, the proposal. And then we'll have questions and answers, some time for that. Then we'll break out into small groups to discuss this, the pros and the cons a little bit more thoroughly. Finally, we'll have time for discussion of the other warrant articles. Are there any questions about how we'll proceed tonight? Okay. When we do have the Q&A, we'll have the questions there. Yes?
Will the new senior center have a microphone that works?
I understand that the microphones are primarily for LCTV, and so they're not for amplification within this room. I'm sorry for the difficulty. So then I will ask that if anybody is asking a question, that they please speak up so that folks in the back can hear. I also want to note that there's lots of seats in the front, but for those of you who are ready for the small groups, you're welcome to stay there. So please help me welcome Marybeth Bergeron.
No clapping needed. I'll speak in.
By the microphone.
Rose,
Microphone, you have to be in the microphone to amplify.
Rose, you're going to let me know if people back there can't hear me. Well, let me first say that welcome to the Council on Aging, room over 60 room. As you can tell, we don't have central air conditioning here. The microphones aren't working. There's a few deficiencies even in this room, which is probably the best room of the house. You'll also notice when you first came in the door that there was no, counter there to greet you, to tell you where to go, to direct you. This is one of the many things that we're going to hope to cure in a new adult center here in Long Meadow. I have been involved in this project for a long time, and it actually probably seems longer to me this week. It is a project that is very much needed by this town. We have a senior center that does not meet ADA requirements. We have a rising senior population. Currently, we have 4,509 residents over the age of 60, an additional 2,600 between the age of 50 and 60. This facility is not large enough to meet those needs. We have issues with privacy here with the veterans agent, with the nurses agent, with the director of the Council on Aging, and as importantly with our social services director. All of these things and others we would cure with a new adult center in Long Meadow. I think most of you are aware that this is our fourth attempt at town meeting to get a senior center approved. The first two were at Turner Park, and the third one was at Bliss Park, and now the residents spoke loud and clear at those three prior meetings that they would support a new center here at Greenwood. So here we are. We're giving the community what they said they would support, and we're hoping that we have your support as well. I am now the chairman of the Permanent Building Committee that was formulated last summer. The committee did research. Stephen Crane formed a design selection team. We interviewed architects, and by far, by a long shot, the person that was chosen by that team was John Kaplan of Kaplan and Petrovic Architects. They have designed 46 senior centers in Massachusetts alone. These people know what they're doing. They know what a senior needs, what our residents need, and our team identified for them some of the things that we might use this center for that would be for people other than senior residents. For example, this new building has a gymnasium. It is a full-size regulation basketball court. We have a shortfall now of sports playing areas, and this would help accommodate that, particularly if we build a new middle school. 5 or 10 years from now, we will be short one of the basketball courts. Add to that, Longmeadow is a walking town, and you will see in John's presentation that we are proposing that there be a walking jogging track installed over the basketball court so that in inclement weather or any weather, people can come over and walk or jog. There's also a full-size fitness room. Obviously, you all are, everyone here is very fit, right? You all exercise daily. Well, you'd have an opportunity to be able to use the adult center in lieu of going to Health Tracks or one of the other facilities around. So it would be a community, multi-generational, intergenerational opportunity. The town manager, together with the building committee, are proposing that after 3 o'clock, when the adult center closes, this building would be available for everyone in the community, specifically probably for sports teams from 3 to 11 at night, scheduled by the Park and Rec Department. Certainly meeting rooms would be used, perhaps fitness, the walking and jogging trail. All of those things are a real benefit to our community. This would happen not only Monday through Friday, but this facility would be open on weekends as well. What a win for us. What a real win for us. We don't have anything like that today, and we're hoping to get that in the future. So going backwards again, John Kaplan was hired. He has come up with this plan, and I'm introducing him to you now. Thank you so much again for coming.
Thank you, Marybeth. They told me to stand over here, so I will do that. Again, I'm John Kaplan with Kaplan Petrovic Architects, and we specialize in working with elders. We've been doing it for about 30 years, and we're very pleased to have been chosen. Oops. Yeah, right there. How about if I hold it like this? Can I do that? Yeah, thanks. We're very pleased to have been chosen to work on this project with your town. I'm going to walk through fairly quickly because I know there's a lot of discussion that's going to happen. This is kind of the outline of what will probably be shown at town meeting, although we're going to shorten it a bit. But as we know, this is the site, and I always like to point out that we're sitting right about here, right now. That's the existing senior center. The rest of the building is used for recreation by the recreation department. And then the site itself, again, has the pool, the older tennis courts, and these suns represent the southern side of the site. And that's really important when we design these kinds of facilities, because much of the programming in the building we want to have on the southern side of the building where the light is, especially in New England. You're familiar with this building because we're in it, but this is the entry, the hallway. I always like to point out quickly that hallways are a real detriment for elders, not for the young go-go elders, the healthy elders, but it's really an issue for slow goers, which are walkers and canes, or no goers who are on a wheelchair. About 15% of our population makes that up, and long, narrow hallways are a problem for that. This was designed to be a middle school for young children, and many of the aspects that we're going to look at relate to that function. The other issue here is that there's not little or no privacy in meetings with nurses, discussing financial matters, maybe personal family matters, dealing with podiatry and blood pressure, medical issues. We don't provide that kind of opportunity. And it's an important aspect of a good senior center. Senior centers do 3 important things in a community. They provide social interaction, engagement. They provide nutrition through a meals program, and they provide exercise or physical movement through physical fitness, either sit and be fit, chair volleyball, vertical volleyball. We also have other opportunities in terms of walking tracks and things like that. So our job in these buildings is to provide those three key issues. That's what leads to healthy aging. That's what helps us stay within our homes in our community. The bathrooms were designed for children. They're not fully accessible. Children height toilets are currently here. They're about 12 to 14 inches above the floor. Elders need a toilet that's 18 inches above the floor. And the bathrooms should be designed to help people who have movement problems to manage it. Otherwise, we don't accept them as really users of this facility. We're in the multi-purpose room. Most towns with your population needs a room that can seat up to 150 for a meal, up to 200 or 300 people for a gathering. Obviously, this room doesn't do that. Also, the height of the room is really important, and we'll show a little bit about that. This is your fitness and game room. Hit a couple lights, that would be great. At this end, well, now we can see. You can see the problem with the fitness room, and if you want to see it in person, it's just right around the corner. So, what do we have planned? We've worked long and hard with the committee, with various aspects of the community, looking at the site, and a lot of discussion with Parks and Rec, who are a big user group of this facility. And we made some decisions with the help of Parks and Recs about how to approach the building and the site. You can see that we have it set up so that we enter into the site here for the elders, and this provides parking and access for the younger people. We like to keep them separate as much as possible because it's about safety. We're taking over the area where the tennis courts are, and this is, as you can see, on the north side of the building, allowing the southern side to be used for outdoor activities and interior program spaces that face the south. The tennis courts were deemed by Recreation to be they'd have to be fully rehabbed to be used, and they have other courts and they're elsewhere in town. This is how we developed our program. You can see we use colors, and when you look at the plans, the orangey red is the program space, which is what we're really designing this for. So on the first level, the gymnasium, which faces the youth facility across the way here, this is a joint use space between the youth groups, the community, and the senior center, accessible from both sides. It has its own entrance for its programming, which are community-based programming. The senior center has its entrance for its operation. And then we have over here an area of town facilities which are both dual town and senior center based. We have the veterans agent, the nurse who sees both children and families from the town as well as elders from the senior center. And then we also have the food pantry, accessible on their own entrance and can be run at different times separate from the senior center. This is the multi-purpose room. The room we're in right now is about this large. And this is size appropriate for the population in town. The hallway, which is really what we call Main Street, we have a cafe at the entrance. It's a self-serve cafe. It's part of the socialization aspects of the senior center. There's seating around what we call an information board or an information hub. There's a lot of information now that's being provided for seniors. And to understand all that, that happens here. There's a flat screen TV that shows the current operations that are happening that day in the senior center. There's a monumental stair that takes you to the second floor. Part of the second floor is to reduce walking distances. The second floor also reduces the footprint on the site. There's an elevator next to it, the main stair up. We have an open lounge library for socialization. And then we have the multi-purpose room, which can be divided into two separate rooms with a performance stage. The kitchen supplies the food service to the center and has its own separate entrance. I'm going to go back one. I don't want to forget On the south side, there's a large open patio. There's a performance stage outside that connects to the interior one for outdoor concerts and gatherings during the summer months. Upstairs, we have this upper level of the gymnasium, which is over here, and we have the walking, running track around it. Access to the fitness room for the senior center. We have a game area, billiards and card playing up here that looks down into the multi-purpose room. We have classrooms above, and along with a residential kitchen for cooking classes. Often as we grow older, we have issues of nutrition and understanding how to properly feed ourselves, especially if we're single or a couple with an empty nest where you've got to understand how to properly feed yourself to stay healthy. This is you have a very colonial, very lovely community, and we wanted to pick up on the character of that community by creating a more traditional colonial style building. This is the main entrance. It looks a little bit different than the one we have here right now. It has seating outside underneath the canopy for people waiting to be picked up, a drop-off area in front, covered area with an open area out of the cafe for outside seating, the entrance for the town-wide offices that are separate from the senior center, as well as an entrance area for the service. And you can see over here on the edge, the gymnasium showing up. It shows up a lot better in the next image. Out in the back, facing south, there's a lot of glass to let the light into the various activity rooms. There's the performance area here that comes from inside the building, outside patio for gatherings outside, and the gymnasium, which is over on the side there. That gymnasium is very transparent. It's meant to be transparent, to be very open, and especially during the less inclement weather, it has a lot of accessibility outside. Some examples of how this might look. This is your typical lobby that is it's not just a hallway, but it's a place for socialization, engagement, as well as checking in at the reception desk, which is over here. Very strong visual connection to the upstairs. Fellow coming down is a good example. I want to point out too that these have a lot of natural light internally. These are skylights. Part of healthy aging is making sure that you get plenty of natural daylight to deal with, especially for older folks in terms of depression and chronic illness. This is a typical cafe. This one happens to be in Holyoke. I don't know, has anybody been to the Holyoke Senior Center? This is a very active facility. In this case, it's a larger center. It has volunteers that serve coffee at the back. Our center would have a self-serve counter area for coffee and pastries. I talked about the library and lounge. That's a quieter area for socialization. In this case, this is about maybe 15, 20 feet from the busy lobby into a quieter area. And then around the corner there is a library where it is even more quiet, where you can do reading. There's a knitting group that meets every morning there at 9 o'clock when the center opens. It's very active, and it's got a very strong residential feel. The reason for that is that we are not trying to promote an institutional building. This is not your typical municipal building. This is designed to be very comfortable, very welcoming, almost like your second home. Again, these are skylights, bring in daylight, and this is access out onto the patio. This is your typical game room. I showed you the game room we have here, so you can actually play pool without hitting somebody at the ping pong table. Or you can, what's really fun about this is that we have the billiards tables, which is a strong draw for men. It's often hard to get men into these facilities. The fitness facility and the billiards help, but we have plenty of ladies who also play that. The card tables are used for mahjong, bridge, puzzles, canasta. I understand you play canasta here. I heard somebody playing that the other day. One of my favorite games as a kid. And you can see how it's used. In this case, the tables are set up. We have a lady who's learning, or maybe she's the pool shark, I'm not sure. But we have traveling groups that travel from senior center to senior center to play match games, which is kind of cool. The fitness facility is separate, and what I tried to mention before, on the second floor there's a lot of overlooks. In this case, this facility looks down into the multi-purpose room. The dance floor here looks out over the entryway, so there's a lot of visual connection. That creates synergy. It's a very transparent building, and the reason for that is that quite often as we age, and we get up around 75, like me, or 80 or 85, some of us are a little bit shy about taking up a program, but when you walk down through the building and you see one of your friends enjoying something, whether it's an art class or a fitness operation, you may be sucked into enjoying that yourself. So that's part of the process of healthy aging. This is a multi-purpose room. That's what this room is. But the rooms that we do have a performance stage. It's a large area. These tables are set up for lunch, which is served out of the kitchen. There's a divider that comes across that can separate the room out so you can have another class opportunity. That's why we call it multi-purpose. It's designed for maybe Tai Chi or light aerobics. We even do some meditation in that area. But you can get an idea of how, when you raise the ceiling up, I didn't get a chance, I was going to throw it in here, but I was just at a senior center where they're playing sit and be fit volleyball, where they play with a beach ball. And you need about 10 feet of height because they're whipping that ball up and down. That's part of the exercise program, and it's also a socialization program that occurs in these centers. The gymnasium is not only basketball, but pickleball too. It's one of the most fast-growing sports among older folks, younger too. In this case, they have 2 courts set up. One's being used in this one. You can see the basketball set up. And we have an opportunity for 3 pickleball courts on the gymnasium floor because it's a full regulation basketball court. And we're planning on 2 outdoor pickleball courts for summertime use. This is an image of what the walking track would look like. Walking running track. It overlooks the gymnasium. In this case, there's a group of elders who are playing competitive volleyball. We often have volleyball, pickleball, badminton, besides basketball. In fact, I sit on a board with an elderly gentleman who's 80 years old who plays competitive hockey. He often comes in pretty banged up, but we should understand that just because we're old doesn't mean we don't move. This is a rendering of how the gymnasium may look. A group of kids playing, some older folks watching. The walking track is above, and the transparency shows how there's going to be a outside multi-purpose soccer field that's both middle school size as well as can be divided to be for younger elementary age students. So Marybeth mentioned the current town population is about 15,500 people. We have an exceptionally high elder group in this town. There's 4,500 elders currently, give or take a few, and our percentage is 29% of the total population in the town. That's really quite exceptional. The average in the state of Massachusetts is 11% overall total population. The only other towns that really kind of exceed 25% are down along the Cape. If you go to Falmouth, they're going to be in, I think 5 years, they're going to be 48% over the age of 60. Many, many towns now are building these centers. It takes time to get to this point. I'm pleased that you are here at this point. I hope that this is going to be supported. Not because I'm the architect. My role in the last 15 or 20 to 25 years, if I get it right, has been an advocate for elders. I lecture all around not only the state, but I also do it nationally, advocating for facilities that help us as we age to age healthy. What's really unique about this population is, if I would have put this chart up 30 years ago, this population would be down around 10 to 12% of your gross population. We're aging, we're a graying communities, and this kind of facility is really key to that healthy aging. The last slide is, what does this cost? This is going to be a hot topic of conversation. Marybeth has spent some time with the town accountant. This is what we call a sunset bond that's going to be asked for. That is that it's a certain number of years, and each year that bond reduces, and its overall cost reduces over time until it zeroes out, maybe 20 years. I'm not sure what the time frame is. Currently, in current money, it's 48 cents per thousand. The average home assessment in town is a little less than $350,000. The borrowing for this project, and this question's come up a lot, it will not affect the town's debt management policy. And the funding for this project will also not have an effect on the Moody or S&P bond rating for the town. That's per the town accountant. The average home value, $350,000, 48 cents per thousand, costs each individual homeowner with that price house about $168 a year, $42 per quarter, and what's the math? Oh, come on. $14 a month, and if it goes by the weekly number, it is considerably less than my 2 Starbucks mochas a day that I drink. So I just wanted to make sure that people had a sense of what this cost is to the town. That pretty much concludes. I bet if I push the button, it'll go black. So maybe that's what I should do. Thank you very much. I hope you had a chance to get something out of that.
We'll have time for some questions and answers, truly questions. We'll save comments for discussion in groups. If anybody does have a question, I ask that you come to that microphone over there, and we'll get the questions answered as best we can. Yes.
How about if we bring the microphone?
Is that possible?
I'd rather leave it there if you could.
You'd rather leave it there?
We could get it.
Could you? Thank you.
Stand over here.
I'm gonna leave it there.
I want to say I'm very uncomfortable speaking, so you'll have to bear with me. And I recommend that the architectural firm go back and reduce the scope of this facility, and I believe that the proposed senior center is way over the top. This is not the Ritz.
I'm so sorry to have to interrupt you.
I'm not done.
Wait a minute.
Wait a minute. I'm on a roll.
Well, unfortunately, we will have.
I have 5 minutes, and you can give me that, please.
Ma'am, the way.
Ma'am.
Excuse me.
Let's not argue, because by the time we do arguing, I will have finished the page.
I'm so sorry.
No, you're not sorry. You just want to get me off off there.
No. I don't know whether you got the agenda for the evening. Ma'am, did you get the agenda for the evening?
And you've talked about Holyoke. Holyoke has a population of 40,000. The gym is run by the YMCA, and you either have to pay $20 a month to use it, or you can join the YMCA for $480. Natick has a population of 40,000. Wellesley has a population of 36,000. We called them up and asked them today, please don't refute this.
Excuse me, ma'am?
And wait a minute, I'm not done.
I am the moderator of this forum.
I don't care.
And the way that we're doing things is by questions and answer first. So I really, truly
I really would recommend
ask
that you
a
go back
question.
to the drawing board. The number of parking places that you have there is 2/3 of what is down on the north side of the shopping center. And you know, that is, it's absolutely a civil engineer's dream. Cover the world with asphalt. It's way, way, way too big. And it has to be consolidated. Now, when I was at the meeting earlier, you said that this was preliminary. And it is preliminary. And I suggest that people think about it and reduce their plans. As I said, this is not the Ritz. And the people who are going to pay for it and use it are those of us who have the least amount of money and who will be paying for it. The senior centers should be cost effective. And in addition to that, this is the cost that it's going to, for our taxes to go up. This does not include what it's going to cost a much larger facility to run, albeit very, very efficient, or the additional personnel. And I hope everybody will consider that. And thank you for your time, even though you interrupted me.
So what I would invite folks to do when they speak, to say their name, even though it's not town meeting, their address, just generally let us know where you're here. Kindly keep your questions to a question so that somebody can answer them, and then we will have extended time for everyone to talk with one another. We will, as you see from the agenda, there is time devoted to the advantages of the proposal, and there is an equal amount of time devoted to discussion of the consequences, trade-offs, and disadvantages of this proposal. So we will have an equal amount of time devoted to talk about the pros and the cons. I appreciate your collegiality and goodwill. We have somebody at the microphone, and if you have a question, I invite you to go to the microphone. Thank you so much. We have somebody at the microphone first. This is for LCTV to be able to show to everyone later on. Thank you for your patience and understanding.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. I just have a quick question. Arlene Miller, 68 East Greenwich Road, Long Meadow, actually. Louder? Okay. I was just talking to her, actually. That's okay. Arlene Miller, 68 East Greenwich Road, Long Meadow. I just had a quick question. I just wondered, I feel a little bit like we just went through an override for a big building, and I don't even really know the results of that exercise in terms of how much it's going to cost us, actually. And I wondered why, I know you've been through a lot of different iterations and a lot of different locations, and I think this is certainly a beautiful proposal. Why couldn't wait a year, just so the town could settle into this other big project that is just approved last year? Thank you.
Is there somebody who can answer that? If you come to the microphone to answer. Ms. Bergeron? And then Mr. Crane?
Want me to answer that?
Either one who would like to?
You're the town manager.
You're on TV.
Yeah. So to answer, by the way, the bids did come back on the DPW under budget, and so we'll be just announcing at town meeting that we're going to proceed with the project. So that was very favorable news on that. It just got sorted out at the end of last week, which is why we haven't really formalized the announcement, but that is good news. As Marybeth mentioned, this project has been gestating for quite a while as well. Not quite as long as the DPW, which has it beat by 20-something years, but it has been. I've been here 5 years, and since the day I got here, this has been a focal point of conversation. And as town manager, the reason why I think this is an important project to proceed with is that, and I hate to be glib about it, but they're not getting younger. There is a significant senior population, and they are aging. And one of the key things that I think communities now are really focusing on is providing the ability for seniors to age in place. And what that does is it enables, first of all, it keeps the fabric of your community stable, keeps your housing prices stable, because if you had 30% of our homes go up for sale all at once, that would be pretty bad for the housing market. So it stabilizes the community. Seniors do live in their homes, they pay property taxes, but they don't have children in school. So from a municipal resource consumption standpoint, it's a great value for the town, and that'll help us maintain our schools in the future, quite frankly, is having a senior population is able to age in place. But you need to have not only resources and services, but you also have to have amenities. And foremost amongst them are the things John laid out at the beginning about fitness, nutrition, togetherness, community, association, all of those things, mental and physical health. And you need to have transportation, and the transportation component is something we've also been working on as well. And I think this has been the town meeting before. I think the last time around people made it clear they didn't like the site, but I heard a lot of feedback that they understood we need a new senior center. And so I think I know the committee felt this way, I know I felt this way, and I know the select board felt this way, that we should keep this moving forward and let the voters of Long Meadow decide. And listen, believe me, I would have loved a year off to take a little time on this, but I think it's when's going to be the right time. And I think with the senior population the way it is, now's the right time.
Just before you come, I just want to say one quick thing. One of the most important things right now in waiting a year or 2 years, I've been through this with a number of communities, and what happens is that if it's $14 million this year, next year it'll be $15 million. The year after that it'll be 16, and you'll be facing the same kind of challenge. How do we afford this? And right now the construction market is increasing at 7 to 8% a year. At 10% a year, it would be $1.4 million more. So the one thing you have to be aware of is that when we delay, which is a very valid request, by the way, it costs a lot of money to delay. Okay, I'm sorry.
Yes. In the microphone. Is it your name and speak loudly so people in the back can hear it right in the microphone.
I live right, my property adjoins the park. I did not know what the format of this meeting would be, and I did have a small presentation. Is that allowed for the whole? The problem with breaking into groups is that we will not hear what each other has to say. We will only get bits and pieces. So I don't know how to approach this.
You're welcome to ask some questions now,
Well,
and what we can do later is talk about.
Well, the problem
before
is
town
it was
meeting.
kind of a different viewpoint. Would that be, could we ask, because I'm sure other people in here would also, like the lady who was just here, have opinions that we would like everyone to hear. But by breaking into groups, we will not be allowed to hear the viewpoints of others, and this is all I'm saying. Would that be permissible in this case? For all of us, to change the format so we can all be
I'm
heard?
happy to adapt.
Could we?
I'm happy to
Okay.
adapt. The difficulty with the group
Yeah.
is that we've got everybody spread out,
Yeah.
and so I was not aware, and forgive
Yeah.
me, I didn't know that there was a group that wanted to speak.
When we weren't aware of the format, that we would not be able to speak to everyone either, which is a little unusual
Well,
when you have a meeting.
so if I may,
Yeah,
in the past, the forums that I've conducted
yeah,
before town meeting
Yeah.
have been in this format.
yeah,
And they're known as deliberative forums,
Yeah.
where participants get to talk to one another informally.
Yeah.
And what that allows for is more people to speak,
yeah.
and it allows for more people to listen to one another's opinions in a more careful
Yeah.
way than is possible in this kind of a format.
But the only problem is that we will not all have an opportunity to hear
yes,
what each has to say. With a
if you would
if
like,
I make it brief.
you can make a very brief statement, but if you would like, at
Yeah.
town meeting, you can be given,
It doesn't want to cooperate. It's not nice. Doesn't like me today. Okay. There we go. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Well, anyway, it would have been It would have been helpful had the public known the format for this meeting, because at
Sure.
town, yeah.
I acknowledge
So
that,
I
yes.
really don't know how to approach this because.
Well, at town meeting, you can make
Yeah.
an extended presentation. I ask if you just have a very, very brief remarks, you keep it to very, very short time.
I just wanted to
Thank
say,
you.
I have read the minutes of all, I did some research, read the minutes of all the building committees and COA, and I just want to thank you for at least considering the impact that this center would have on our neighborhood. Now, I am here for the same reason others have been at other meetings, not in my backyard. And I know that you worked hard to get other locations, and with the time that you had, this was the easiest. Now, I am concerned about my neighbor. When I saw the plan, I want to ask all of you, if you had a driveway and a parking lot right next to your lot, would you like that? Now, Greenwood has two sections. The school is comprised of 4.08 acres, and the park itself is 9.28 acres. Now, the minutes of many of the building committees indicate that the center will need 3 acres for building and parking. So that leaves us with 6 acres of parkland, and on which we already have a pool house, tiny playground, and a small playing field. Greenwood is the smallest park in town. Our neighborhood is changing as older members are moving out, downsizing, and now I'm seeing an influx of younger residents with children. Now, the park is well utilized by our neighborhood. I worked at the senior center here many years ago with Inger and Karen. I went down to Connecticut for the next 20 years at their center, and it took us 13 years to realize our dream for a new center, but we got it. Now, we learned some of the things about what they wanted. We learned our seniors want and deserve a seniors-only facility, not one shared with others, and I feel that same way with our proposed center. In my younger days when I worked in Enfield, I wondered why everyone walked so slowly and limped. Now I know. Now, therefore, the concept of a multi-story complex will make it difficult for many people to climb the stairs. Regarding auditoriums, we already have 8 available auditoriums in town that are well utilized. I have a list of this long of all the activities if anyone wants to see it. We also have a community house, plus the old town hall. Now, in planning the center, your primary focus was on saving money, so Greenwood was the cheapest alternative at the moment. Now, no one objected to the, I'm going to say it had to be about approximately a $78 million high school, nor a $24 million public works facility, which I am in favor of. And that included a $2.6 million purchase of property. And you, not only that, you did not object to rehabbing an old 1921-1928 center school buildings. And yet, when it comes to providing a facility for seniors, we focus on how cheaply this can be accomplished. We are so stingy when it comes to financing a facility for the very taxpayers who have supported and paid for new schools, improved playing fields, a new public works complex. But we need a central location. Why can't we use a corner of the 12-acre, $2.6 million property on which we will be placing the public works complex? That will take 5 acres. Our center will take 3 acres. That is a possibility with town-owned land. It is central. Now, I think it's time to go back to the drawing board and find a more central location and spend the money on a facility our seniors deserve after their many years of supporting our town. And as an aside, in doing research, I downloaded town meeting minutes from 1937 to 1998. And it's fascinating reading. So at a time when our superintendent made $1,800 a year and we received, it was cute, dog money from the county. Now, if anybody by the way, want some copies. It was a chore to get them downloaded.
Ma'am.
I'll send them to you. Now, in closing, I really want to thank the committees for all your hard work, and we will abide with whatever decision you make, and I thank you.
Now, I would ask that if there are any other questions, we have, two people for questions only? Okay, go ahead.
I promise.
Thanks.
Janet Robinson, 57 Canterbury Lane. I'll admit that I have not followed the committee meetings and the minutes and read up, and perhaps this information is in there. But out of the 4,500 seniors that are currently in town, how many of those seniors actually use the current senior center?
Ms. Bergeron, can you answer that question?
I believe last year.
If you can use the mic, thank you.
That's okay.
I appreciate it.
Last year, 1,907. It might not be last year. It might be the year before. There were 1,907 unique users of this center.
So about half.
About half, right. The center has a stigma. There's no doubt about it. You walk in that door and it looks like a nursing home or a hospital. I think we would have a better attendance at the senior center if we had a facility that looked like this.
Just to comment on that, our average change in population use in the senior center and the ones that we've built and been built in the communities around here, some of which are quite small, 6,000 or 7,000 square feet, they're tripled. That's the average. In some communities, it's even higher. It's never less than tripled. And the Secretary of Elder Affairs office says it's such a truism, but it's such a cliche. If you build it, they will come.
Before we get to your question, there's an answer to the issue of why not at other locations. Mr. Crane?
And Ruth, I didn't catch all of what you said, but I did hear you ask about the DPW site and kind of why Greenwood. The answer to the why Greenwood question is the one that probably is the most researched and the one that had the most time spent on it. As you are aware, there was a lengthy site selection process that a dedicated group of volunteer residents went through, and they looked at every site. They got a lot of feedback from people. They analyzed every town-owned site. They had determined that a site at Bliss Park would be ideal, and quite frankly, in my belief, in many ways, it would have been ideal. Town meeting voters felt differently, and their guide and the feedback during that discussion was keep it at Greenwood. And it was. I was there. And so and then when we talked about the select board level, the approach we decided was take Greenwood and really rethink the entire park and see if we could utilize space that is underutilized today. So, and in terms of the DPW site, on paper it's 11 acres, but most of that includes a lot of severely sloped topography because dingles run right through that site. And if you looked at the DPW site plan, there really is not a lot of land left over once the building and the necessary hard spaces, material storage, parking, things like that get built out. The site actually turned out to be fairly tight. But the site, Greenwood was chosen specifically because of feedback that we received from the whole community, most pointedly at the last annual town meeting. So that the site selection was really a community decision.
Could you come to the microphone, please? Thank you very much.
I have a really quick question, and it involves the Prop 2.5 override and the budget for this building. I have no objections to whatever this town wants to do to make it a better place to live. I am a senior. I do not participate here, but I do live in the town, and I would like the town to remain as good a place to be as ever. But my concern is, how do we protect ourselves from the budget running over, and the Prop 2.5 override that would be the next. And today's paper had a very enlightening statement that said that any approval of this budget, irrespective of the amount of money that was approved, would not mean that they couldn't go back for more money and avoid the Prop 2.5 override, and that concerns me.
Mr. Crane?
So I just want to clarify some definitional points. What we're proposing at town meeting is for a debt exclusion, which means it goes over and above the operating budget that gets to go up 2.5% per year. A Proposition 2.5 override is a permanent increase of your tax rate or of your taxing ability, which is usually for operations. Usually overrides are most associated with your annual operating budget won't meet the needs of your current level of services, so you override that 2.5% cap. We're not talking about that here. In fact, the budget that we're proposing at town meeting doesn't even go up the full 2.5%. The debt exclusion vote is just additional taxation on top of the regular Prop 2.5 money, specifically for this project. DPW was the same thing. High school was the same thing. And so this project has virtually no impact on the operating budget. And I think we already offer a great number of programs. We provide great services at Greenwood here at the Adult Center. The facility, obviously, I don't think is adequate to meet the needs of current seniors, let alone future seniors. But that doesn't mean we don't do a great job with what we have. And so this is an opportunity to really expand all of that, but that doesn't translate necessarily into an expansion of the operating budget.
So my only concern is that our property taxes won't see ever increasing amounts on a quarterly basis, and at the end of the next tax bill that comes in, oh, it's only $300 for the quarter, and then it comes again, and it's only another $300 a quarter.
Yeah.
And there comes a point where we seniors are not going to be able to absorb this amount of money. We're going to be forced to leave.
Understood. And I guess my view of it is that we do everything we can to be as responsible and as efficient with taxpayers' resources as we possibly can, while still maintaining the investments that need to be maintained in the community, because those investments, like a high school, like a DPW, like a senior center, like new water mains, new sewer mains, new playground equipment, all of those investments are what maintains the quality of life in Long Meadow, and that quality of life in Long Meadow is what maintains the value of everyone's property globally, and that's what maintains people's investment in their primary asset, which is usually their home. And so the answer is the reason why, and taxes are expenses are always going to go up. Even the stuff we don't control goes up every year beyond our control. But taxes are going to go up just like people want their wages to go up, just like the cost of things go up.
Unfortunately, I'm a senior. My wages don't go up.
Yeah.
Are there any other questions? Yes, go ahead. Yeah, sure. And then I'm there.
It's a two-part question. One, does this proposal include what is going to happen to this Greenwood building that we currently have? And are the costs for whatever this building is going to become, whether it's renovated or removed, whatever, are those costs part of this proposed $14 million?
So the answer to the first question is no. The proposal is just the building that was presented by John. We are in the process of, the building is actually, it's a town building, but the primary tenant is the Parks and Rec Department. The Adult Center is a subtenant. And so, Barry Jarvis, the head of the Parks and Rec Department, and I are engaged in some planning efforts to look at how could we utilize this building if it became available from a Parks and Rec standpoint. And we're in the process of finalizing all of that, and we'll be presenting that to the select board Monday night. But the short answer is Parks and Rec operations would be consolidated here. They have a bunch of space at the community house. So that would be, the Parks and Rec department would be consolidated here in this facility, and they would have some opportunities for some programming that they don't currently have. The number one priority would be least amount of change to the space to reuse, so we don't incur additional expense to start moving walls around and things like that in here. And because it's already laid out as classrooms, it really isn't that big a deal to do that.
The answer to the question question is, one is there's no plan for this building as of today or as part of this proposal.
That's not what I said.
You said it's in discussion.
Well, we're just finalizing it. Like I said, I'm going to present the information to the select
Because
board
the
on
Park
Monday.
and Rec Department has a very small footprint in the community house. So,
Right, and the size of that footprint limits what they do over there.
okay. And secondly, the costs of whatever this building will evolve into are not included in the 14 million price tag.
Yeah, but I mean, the idea is there would be not a lot of fit out to expand into here because it's the room configurations are exactly what they have on the other side.
Okay.
I would add, I would just add one last thing there, that I know that there was some discussions. One of the ideas for Parks and Recs was that they're short after-school classrooms, and one of the ideas was part of the program was to help kids in after-school programs. And what's really special about that is that a lot of our seniors, the elders, become the tutors in the after-school programs. We have math experts, language experts, and what have you. So literacy, mathematics, and other items can become a joint program once rec gets settled in here.
Hi, Kate Croto, 173 Maple Road. Yes, Maple Road, right there. It is my backyard. What studies have been done about the safety aspects of the second entrance, that second driveway being added? Because you have things like, you know, you've got the camps here in the summer that frequently use the pool and the splash pad that are there already, and you have increased traffic. We recently had, I want to say maybe 2 or 3 years ago, an added crossing guard at the current crosswalk right here across Maple for everyone to get safely to the pool. My primary concern is that added extra driveway. Kids bike up and down the sidewalks all the time. So I don't know what studies have been done for that. That's my first
Mr.
question.
If you got another one, that's good. Actually, because I felt a little bit of time pressure, I kind of glossed over the site plan. That extra driveway is actually in there for safety. I apologize for any older seniors here, but as we get older, our driving capabilities are somewhat limited. And the idea of the extra driveway in is a one-way into the center, and allows an individual who's accessing the center to enter into the center, drop off maybe a passenger, and then park within that parking lot. We very carefully separated that parking lot from the rec center here parking lot, because that's where the kids really get dropped off and get active. And we're creating a walkway that comes from this facility across the southern side of the senior center to connect to the pool. So the parking for children and operations primarily is in this lot, and from 9 to 3 or 9 to 4, the senior center lot will be busy. After 3 or 4, that lot becomes available for other operations within the center. There's separate small amount of parking also associated directly with the pool. But the idea of that third or second driveway is really designed for safety. We do a lot of these centers, and we really feel one way in for elder drivers is the safest way to access the site. They're just about as exciting drivers as teenagers.
I'm not so sure your answer assuages my fears about the safety. Yeah, I guess I feel like I'm on Jeopardy. I have to phrase it in the form of a question. My question is, if we have this big, beautiful, wonderful building that's being proposed, and then this building essentially becomes an eyesore, and I don't know how as a community we deal with those two buildings in the same site, in the same facility. So, and I do have more follow-up questions about safety. But I don't know if I need to ask him in a public forum, but I know the pool
Okay.
The pool, for example, opens at 1 o'clock. The senior center will be open till 3 or 4. Are we gonna, as a town, looking at extra crossing guards? How are we doing this? Because that's a very busy sidewalk, very busy street as well. And you know, I just that really, really concerns me. That extra entrance really concerns me.
I hear you on that. I think that, it's funny, sometimes you get into projects and you look at it in isolation, and on paper you're like, well, this looks like a safety concern, without looking at what's status quo, what's in the field today. And so in the field today is a wide open parking lot with many opportunities for pedestrian and vehicle conflict and movement. I truly believe that the site plan that is not as advanced stage of development as it will be when the project if the project goes out to bid, presents a much safer alternative to what's out there right now. And I think that's the key thing. Is this the safest plan ever conceived? No, but is it going to be a lot safer than what we have today? I truly believe so. And in terms of like specific crossing points or additional pedestrian security elements and things like that, those will all be fleshed out during the final design process and planning process, which we do on all projects. I mean, we have we're a complete streets community. We recently received a grant for significant upgrades of 2 pedestrian crossings. I mean, pedestrian, bicycle, vehicle safety. So we do this every day in the community, and we'll do it here too. The number one goal is safety. Thanks.
Another question? Sure.
I probably could. I just shut it all down, but I'll throw it up there so you can look at it.
It really helped.
But I just want to make one quick, if you hold just for a moment, follow up with Stephen. This is a very brief programming study which tried to develop the building to a point where it could be presented to the community. And one of the most important things about a parking lot, it isn't a big area of asphalt. And when the planning board gets involved and we work with DPW and how they want to deal with it, there'll be trees, there'll be islands, there'll be safety walks, and the separation of children and senior adults is very, very important. And I think Stephen's right. When this goes through the process, if it does, that's going to be a drastic, and I think there'll be a lot of input from the community on that.
Barbara Wenig, 139 Maple Road, and I appreciate the additional comments about safety, but I would have to take some exception to saying that even though you're going to lose parking spaces right in front of the pool now, so everybody can go to the pool, they can park there, they can go to the playground, you're losing parking spaces in that section, and where is everybody going to park? They're going to park in the front, which means everybody's going to be crossing over. So I would really tend to disagree with this idea that things will be safer for the kids, because I don't see how that happens, other than the fact that there will be others.
Did you have a question?
The question is, I really need some more information about how that's going to be safer when you take away parking spaces and you push people to a front lot where they're going to have to cross the incoming driveway.
That's a very valid question, and one of the things we did was to maintain the parking area that exists at the pool now, except that we'd probably repave it. We'd also change the way the walks come to it. One of the things I tried to emphasize earlier, that the connection to this, especially in the summer camp time, when the kids are they're playing in the fields out front, we're creating that multi-purpose soccer field, and they have the playground there. The movement from this facility to the pool or to the playground or to the fields are on this side of the building, away from the parking lot and away from vehicles. There is parking at the pool that's not being reduced.
It appears on the diagram that
Well, I'm gonna
is
put
in
it back
fact
up.
being cut
Yeah.
in half almost.
I'll put it back
which
up.
is my concern, because
Yeah.
it already fills up in the summer.
Let me put it up. That was a good question. Thank you. I'm sorry I shut it all down. And if there are more questions, please. In the meantime, I'll get this up and running, and I'll try and show you what was there and see where I can prove myself wrong.
Are there any other questions before we go into our groups?
And I'll leave it up for everybody to look at, so it doesn't, I don't know why I shut it down. I did.
Okay, seeing no other questions, the way that we're going to organize